So it was bad first year. It was full of glass, this place, but I get the job done through to the community. People take it and clean it up. So today there is gardens. It takes a big effort and hard work to get this land to what it was before till now. Myself, Ben and Byron, we negotiate for this to Department of Education. We get 12 million. We build this amazing sports field facilities.
I'm called soccer, netball, rugby, and indigenous games. After you build that sports ground, it's a change for our community.
So now we want to build a hub as well for the children. We consist of like a stadium there with a roof on, with a restaurant inside, a business place inside, sports facility inside. That is all for children, to uplift their standard, to keep them from the streets, to occupy their mind and to better their lives as well, to better their education skills as well. So that is what we actually focus on.
Our long-term vision for Lukhanyo Hub is to create a system which is resilient to climate-related events, therefore providing also stability for the local community. We saw in the Lukhanyo Hub project the opportunity to implement and test a holistic system which will combine sustainable water management practices with urban heat reduction through the provision of green spaces. This system will be replicable, and the ambition is to provide a foundation of how sustainable water management solution can be implemented in school in disadvantaged areas in South Africa. The first set of climate adaptive tools has been already successfully realized at the school. It consists of an hydroponic herbal wall and aquaponic systems to support the local urban farming, which is already run by Jeremy Jones.
At the moment we have funding to put in hydroponics and aquaponics system in.
We harvest water from the rain, and then the water runs to under the ground tanks, and then we install 2 pumps, and those 2 pumps, they pump the water to the fish tank, and then the fish tank circulates the water to the hydroponic.
The hydroponics and aquaponics are activated by solar panel and fed with rainwater. And we also make sure that during the rainy season, the excess of water is not wasted, but it's infiltrated through the ground to recharge the shell of aquifer, which makes indeed the provision of the sort of seasonal storage for the dry periods. So in this process, it was extremely important to engage with the local community and with the children of the school. And a crucial role was played by Jeremy Jones, who is basically the link among all the different actors. So has as a designers, the management of the school, the local families, and the children of the school. So since he knows the context very well, but he is also personally managing the urban farming, and he has also been learning about the tools that we have installed, he's able to liaise with several professional training programs and is able to guide himself, the trainee. And within the context of the school, he was able to transfer to the children the interest and the curiosity around the urban farming system.
After school, I come here into the garden and Mr. Jeremy shows us how to plant and tells us a lot more about farming and the industry. Being in a garden is therapy. Just getting your hands dirty, it's so exciting.
In the community, I teach some young people to keep busy with gardening. I feel happy and relieve my stress and problems.
My name is Khayelitsha. I'm the principal of the school. Before he arrived here, it was practically impossible to change that land into arable land. But when they arrived, they changed everything. I said, wow, what's going on? So, which means indeed, unutilized land in other schools, those schools, they can also benefit there.
Normal development patterns that exist in South Africa and in many other places are largely about single-use planning. So the idea is a school is a place for education and it's singly used for that purpose. What this does is diversify the school into a much more integrated hub. This project's about bringing investment into the townships, improving urban quality, raising land values, and also showing that there are different ways in which people can deliver mixed-use integrated projects. We have the power to attract new developers into the townships to deliver far more equitable, just, and realizable projects. And it has the potential to catalyze systems change.
So we want to actually do this at all 9 schools, and then we will actually go further into Khayelitsha, because Khayelitsha have about 54 schools. Maybe we can implement this at other schools as well. But you know, funding is hard to come. Funding is very hard to come. And then maybe we can supply the schools as well in bulk. Go to government and say, each school we can manage so many kilos of this and that. So children also can eat healthy. We're starting this during the pandemic because the education department can only feed them twice a week. So feed them another day. We have a lot of masks here. We have 70% alcohol sanitizer. I spoke to a few community members and they say, Jeremy, we never know where the next meal for these children is coming from through this time. And what you did now, it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. I have a brilliant team behind me where I can look back and say, okay, this guy is here.
A key positive legacy that apartheid has left in the schooling environment, not that there are many, is the fact that the land is available. You know, that was at least one foresight that they had, that they made the schools bigger than what they needed to be. There's an opportunity with using the Lukhanyo example of getting community involved, of getting private sector involved, and getting actually even departments within the provincial government to kind of sync and work together. If you look at schools in resourced areas, the issue is really being under-resourced, and it's been like that since the apartheid era, right? So a school was built in, say, Khayelitsha, would provide the facilities of classrooms, and it wasn't resourced any further. So with limited resources, schools were expected to water the lawns and paint the walls. Secondly, schools at the time wasn't built with the user in mind. Kids would be in a classroom that's extremely hot in summer and extremely cold in winter. Wasn't soundproof, wasn't insulated properly. Things like that affected kids then, and it still affects kids now. That legacy is still with us today. So a lot of the schools, you must be in the Cape alone, 150 to 200 schools like that, where schools they're not conducive to modern learning, and very, very difficult for kids to adapt to new ways of learning in an environment where they can't sit still because it's too hot.
So the school was built during the time of apartheid in 1986. It was the first school here in Side C. We are really, really struggling here in this school. So even when you look up inside of the school, tiling is very bad. The walls are dirty, they need painting, you see. Don't have playgrounds for soccer, netball, cricket. School hall, don't have the school hall where we can conduct our meeting with the parents. We have 50 learners in classroom, which is not good. The ratio is supposed to be 1 to 35. All those things, they affect teaching and learning. The environment must be conducive to learning and teaching.
Schools as a whole, there is an opportunity to utilize that land to make sure that it becomes more centers of learning that provides a far more holistic education, whether that's just in education or sport or early learning facilities. the school as a whole could be utilized far more effectively around if the ground is used properly. When we started Lukhanyo Hub, besides the actual school buildings, it had a large open piece of land that was surrounded by informal settlements. Right, that was fenced off. Lukhanyo Hub was created in a way that allowed kids to learn more than what they learn in the classroom. Create spaces for them to get into urban agriculture, to grow their own food, to learn skills that effectively they can take elsewhere when they leave school. Whether that's just to be a gardener at home, or whether that's in growing your own food, or whether that is to kind of go into agriculture as a profession. And that's what it kind of taught us. But at the same time, Lukhanyo Hub has got greater potential to utilize the land that's there. And one of the areas that is seriously lacking is early childhood development. It is crucial to kind of get different spheres of government and the private sector involved in developing those areas around schools to allow kids to get a far more holistic education, right? To interact at different levels, both from a schooling and from a cultural and sporting perspective. And that doesn't happen very, very often. Kids go to school, they start at 8, they leave at 3. There's no after school activities. It's not encouraged. Teachers don't get involved. Parents don't get involved. It happens very, very often that these large pieces of land just kind of sit there, and it's a resource we have. It is an opportunity to kind of use that for the greater good of the community.
I think the ECD can be one of the most important because it deals with early childhood. So those child, they can benefit a lot. Yes, it will be so helpful to the children. So when they move to ECD, the large center, there will be so many chances for education. As I have a picture of the ECD, it will help a lot. Even the community can benefit, do you understand? Because there will be so many facilities that they can run. I think there will be a computer center whereby the children can get skills. Computer literate is one of the most important these nowadays. There's only one clinic. There are so many schools, primary schools and the high schools. But if we can get the ECD with the clinic, it can decrease the number of people going to queue. As I see now, there's soccer field, there's netball field, everything, there's tennis, so they benefit a lot, the children together with the community.
When you look at early childhood development, the big issue is how do you fund the buildings kids have to learn in. Municipalities fund the operations of an early childhood development center, but they don't necessarily fund buildings, right? The problem for the private sector to kind of get involved in setting up buildings within schools is that you can't do that over a long period of time. Leases only generally with municipalities or the provincial authorities are up to 10 years. And the payback on a school or to kind of build a early childhood development center is more like 20 years. So there's a mismatch between what can be funded, how it could be funded, and what is allowed for in terms of the legislation, right? So there is a mismatch that we would have to kind of grapple with in terms of developing early childhood development centers in places like Lukhanyo, right? Can be done though, with enough goodwill out there, it can be done. I mean, there are so many parents who have to leave 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and they don't have a place for their kids to go. They end up being looked after by a neighbor or an older sibling, so that parents can actually go out and work. It's important though that they have a safe place for kids to go to, and To build a ECD kind of center around Lukhanyo provides an example of how the safe place could be done. Unused land in existing schools provide that kind of safe haven if it's done properly. The idea around a particular Lukhanyo Hub is to kind of have both the ECD level, which is pre-primary. There's the farming environment for kids in junior and high school. And there's the idea that particularly of, around the fact that many of our parents, also lack the kind of education required to be in this kind of modern environment, right? That there needs to be space created for communities to be involved in education. There are things that parents can pass on to children. There are facilities that you can create for parents to come and learn, to get involved in kind of early childhood education. And that, I think, is what Lukhanyo provides an opportunity for, not only to do an ECD, but to provide a facility for parents to get more involved into the schooling of their kids. At Lukhanyo we built a multi-purpose sporting facility that is not only used by the school, but is also used by the community at large after school hours. And if we can expand those kind of facilities using both private sector and public money, it can create an environment that allows kids to grow holistically.